Today's topic is Sitecore XM Cloud Content SDK. They will talk about this, the features provided in Content SDK and why Content SDK. If you have any questions during this session, please feel free to post your sessions in the chat window, and we will try to cover all your questions at the end of the sessions, and we can have discussions at the end of the sessions. Thank you. Over to you, Nikita.
Thank you, Khushbu. So, hi, good evening, everyone. Our topic of presentation is Sitecore XM Cloud Content SDK. So, to introduce myself, my name is Nikita Vashisht. I'm working as a technical lead at Merkle. I'm certified in Sitecore 910 XM Cloud, Sitecore CDP. Apart from that, I keep on contributing to the community through various channels.
Hello everyone, I'm Shreyansh. I am currently working at Merkle. I'm Sitecore 10 and XM Cloud certified. Thank you.
So, let's talk about what all topics we'll cover today in our presentation. Firstly, we'll talk about what is Sitecore Content SDK, its features, architecture, how to get started, how we can build our Content SDK application, how we can connect our app with XM Cloud, how we can create a component, what are the differences between Content SDK and JSS SDK. Then we'll have a demo. So, to understand what is Content SDK, it's a new and open source development kit that helps developers to integrate XM Cloud content to their front end JavaScript application. So, whatever content that is present in our Experience Edge, we can directly connect or take that data, integrate it, and how we can show that data to our client browser. So, how we can connect the data with our front end application. We can build it using Content SDK. What are its features? It uses specialized APIs and services that fetches data from XM Cloud that then can be used to build our web pages. It works on modern JavaScript frameworks like Angular and Next.js. We can get easily started with it. We have a starter kit template that helps us to generate Content SDK application at a go. What are its features? So it reduces the complexity. So as compared to JSS SDK, our Content SDK application is 49% smaller, which helps us in running our application much faster. Then maintainability is quite easier. We almost have 81% of lesser files in Content SDK, and we have 39% of less code, which makes it easier to understand. And then for visual editing, we use XM Cloud Page Builder. So just for a reference, we use Content SDK only with, or it is only compatible with XM Cloud. So for editing purposes, we use XM Cloud Page Builder. Experience Editor is not supported. It helps in rapid development since it comes with a new starter kit repository. To start up with the development of the application, it's quite easy. Now let's understand how the architecture works. So here in the diagram, we have our Content SDK application that is running, which fetches the data from Experience Edge. So all our XM Cloud content that we build our website gets published to Experience Edge. So all the data, whether it's layout, dictionary, item data, or our site data, all of it can be easily fetched from Experience Edge via GraphQL, which is then passed in a HTML format to our client browser. So our application, Content SDK application, is built either on SSG or SSR. SSG is our static site rendering, and SSR is server-side rendering. So all the data is fetched from Experience Edge via GraphQL and passed in an HTML format to our client browser. All the media files can be directly passed to our client browser from Experience Edge also. Now, what are the basic differences between JSS SDK and Content SDK? JSS SDK works only for XM, XP, and XM Cloud. Content SDK is supported only for XM Cloud. Then, with JSS SDK, components are auto-mapped to the builder, whereas for Content SDK, we have to manually register all the components that we are building in XM Cloud in our component map.ts file. In JSS SDK, we have environment variables like Sitecore API key, Sitecore API host, whereas in Content SDK, all the environment variables that we are updating in our env file, it needs to be prefixed with next underscore public underscore. JSS SDK supports Experience Editor for editing the components, whereas Content SDK supports XM Cloud Page Builder. So how to get started, how we can build the Content SDK application, how we can make a component. We'll go through all of the steps with a demo. So Shransh will be taking us through all these steps. Shransh, can
Okay.
you please share your screen?
Yeah. Thank you, Nikita. I'll pull up my screen. Okay. So even before you begin with the steps of installing the Content SDK, make sure you have the Sitecore Cloud Portal access as well as Node.js is installed in your system. These are the prerequisites before you even begin. Okay. So the first step, you need to install your Content SDK. So all you need to do is go to your command prompt and run the commands that are there. I'll create a new folder. 1 minute. SUG India. You need to run this command npx sitecore content sdk create sitecore js next.js. Once you run this command, it will ask you a prompt in case you need to create any more subfolders inside it. So there's a subfolder next.js that it's recommending. I'll select it, and you need to select the type of pre-render that you want to select. So you can either select SSD or SSR. So in case you have static sites where you don't see much changes, it is recommended to go with SSG. Otherwise, in case it's more dynamic and the content gets changed frequently, go with SSR. So what's the difference between SSG and SSR? Your output HTML that gets generated in SSG, it gets generated during the build time itself. And whether on the SSR, it is during the runtime. So I'll go with SSG for the demo. And meanwhile, this command gets installed. So we go to the cloud portal. Okay. So we have multiple websites already created here. If you can see my screen on the cloud portal, I'll go to any one of it. So I have multiple websites created on my XM Cloud portal. So in case, let's say I want to start my local development, I want to connect any of my websites for my XM Cloud Content SDK. I would need to have few details, the Sitecore content. Yeah. So I would need to have the context ID. I would need to know the site name and all other details so that you can access when you go to your whichever environment you want to connect it with, and you can go to developer settings and you can select any of the sites that are there created for you. So here on, if you look at the portal, there are different settings for different versions. Like for content SDK, the parameters are different. If you can see there is a prefix next underscore public underscore. If I go to JSS, that prefix is not there. And this are settings in case you're working with 21.5 or prior to that. So all you need to update your env file that's there in your starter kit with all the values that are there. So I will be going ahead with the SUG demo site. So you can see all of these variables that are there that needs to be updated in your env files, which I'll show once the starter kit is downloaded. Okay, so this is downloaded successfully. Now, if I go to the folder structure, you can see I have my head application downloaded now. So this is out of the box application that's provided by Sitecore. You can make your customizations on top of it. So let me open that. Smart drawing. Okay. So this is my head application. So one more step prior to uh, updating your env values, make sure that you also install your content SDK CLI. Your existing JSS CLI is not going to work. So I'll run the command. So this is the command for it, npm install sitecore content SDK CLI. So pass the parameter -g, it will install it globally. So once you have the prerequisites, you've downloaded the starter kit and you have installed your CLI, then the next step would be to update the env values, especially these three parameters: JSS editing secret, the next public sitecore site name, and the next public sitecore edge context ID. So you can see that there is an example file already that is created, env.remote.example. Here all the parameter values are empty. All you need to do is update these values, which you will be getting it from your cloud portal, which you'll be getting it from here. So you can see there are multiple parameters: editing secret, site name, default language, context ID, and all of it. I've already copied it in a file. And make sure that you rename it as well to env.local. So the env file, it might vary. Let's say your work, I mean, the details of it might vary from environment to environment. These are the details that I've copied for the dev environment. Let's say you also have the same code repository and the same code base for your UAT environment as well. You can create another env file like .env.uat, and maybe during your build time, you can refer to this env.local or env.uat, whichever specific to the environment that you have. So you can see that I've updated the secret ID, the site name, the default language, and the context ID as well. So once this is done, you need to run the command to terminal. So what it will do is we have provided the site name, we provided the context IDs. Now my local project, it should be able to easily fetch data from my XM Cloud portal, the site name, SUG demo. To run the project, you need to run this command npm run start. So meanwhile it builds. Okay. Few other things, by default, there are scaffolding commands that is provided by Sitecore. You can easily create components, your code first approach using these commands that are provided by Sitecore. Sitecore tools, project, component, scaffold, and you can give your component name. I'll show it to you in the demo. Okay. Meanwhile, few other thing that needs to be kept in mind is, if you look here, there is a file called component.map, component map.ts. So one more thing is, like, if you have an experience working with JSS, Sitecore JSS, there is a file called component builder. where the components are mapped automatically during the build time. But here you would need to explicitly come and map your components with the same name that you are creating. So that is another component hyphen map.ts file. This is the file that is there. And this is the middleware file. You can consider middleware like the pipelines that we have in our MVC files. You can write your custom code, you can handle the requests here. And there are some out of the box middlewares that are already created in Content SDK. Some redirect middlewares, multi-site middleware to identify with some multi-site configuration. Also, if you see, there is another file called sites.json. So whenever you connect your XM Cloud instance, it will list down all the sites, all the host names, and the language which is and the language in which the sites are available. So it will identify, let's say, if the host name instead of star I give xyz.abc.com. So it will identify based on the host name, which is the site name and which is the language it needs to pick up. Okay. So meanwhile, our build is also ready. If I go to my localhost 3000, so this is the data that is coming from the cloud portal. The error is coming because I think in my page, the home page, this my component is added into the presentation details. So let me go to the site content. Yeah. So SUG demo was the site that I had connected it with. This is my home item. In the presentation detail, there was already a component, my component added. But if you look here, in the SRC component folders, this my component is not there. So we need to create a component for it as well. So let's go through the steps of creating a basic component. So this is the code first approach wherein Sitecore tools, project, component, scaffold, and it will create a component with the name that you are providing. So it has already now, if you see, there is a my component file already created. So there is one more reference that is missing out of the box when we scaffold. If you see that this is an error that is coming up, jsx.element. So I refer, let's say if I refer to the other component, you can see that there is one more pack reference of JSX. So this needs to be provided as well. So looks like there is a bug in the scaffold command. This is not getting reference. So now this is out of the box component that is created. My component is getting rendered in the feedback. So now if I try to run the project once again, the error that's coming, right? My component, this should not come. Run it again. Sorry. Also, if you notice, right, the compile time is just 2.4 seconds. Ideally, in the JSS project that we build, the build time is quite high. Still getting this error. Okay, yeah, like I said, right, we have this component map.ts file. So here you need to import your component as well. So since I've created the name with the component, my component, you need to import that as well. So this is for your site code to understand which component it should map the component with. Also, let's say you want to create any custom components, or let's say you want to write your custom GraphQL queries. So you can go to your Experience Edge platform. GraphQL Playground is there. You can write your own GraphQL queries, and either you can put it on the component level itself, or here you can make sure that you write your GraphQL query and fetch it via the Experience Edge API. Uh, Now, if you see, right, the error is not coming. We are able to render the component that we have just created. Two, three more things which we should know while we create. Here, if you see, the package that is being used is Sitecore Content SDK Next.js. It fetches all the packages are the Content SDK packages. But if you remember, if you have been working with JSS, there we used to use Sitecore context that used to get all the data from your Sitecore. But instead, here we are using component params, component renderings. Uh, Also, in the JSX file, the data that used to come from Sitecore that was not tightly coupled. But here, if I look at some out of the box components that is there, you actually need to create the fields and map for your particular component. So in JSX, in the JSS files, in the JS files, this mapping was not required. This was so yeah, this is about creating a basic component. So one more thing, looking so whenever let's say as a user you enter the URL, the first page that gets hit is the pages.tsx. So here all the routing happens. It identifies which page it needs to load, and based on the URL, it identifies which Sitecore item it needs to hit, and based on that, it refers the layout. Let's say you want to create your custom routing, you can create another custom path.tsx, and based on the data that you get from Sitecore, you can modify your logic. So yeah, I think that's some basics about it. So in case you have any questions, please let me know.
Yes, yeah. So can I go ahead and ask the question?
Yeah, yeah, sure.
Yeah. So Shreyansh, I mean, now we are sending this data from Sitecore to your front-end application, right?
Correct.
So, I mean, how exactly this data is getting sent? Because I mean, I'm a hardcore Sitecore person, but currently I'm using another other kind of a headless platform or something, and data gets sent from those headless platform to front-end layer in a JSON format. So how exactly the data is getting sent from Sitecore to our .NET application? That is number one. And is it possible for us to see that content, what exactly is getting sent to the front-end layer?
Yeah, sure. So let me take the example of the component that I have just built. So let's say my component.tsx.
Yeah.
So here I'll try to log whatever data that I'm getting first,
Mhm.
so that you have a clear understanding. So whatever props I'm getting, I'll print it. Okay. And one more thing before I let me run the build command meanwhile. Yeah. Also, if you have noticed, there is this env file that I have updated, right? Here you
Right.
can see there are secret keys
Secret
that I have
keys.
put.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Mhm.
now let me go to the XM Cloud portal before I log. Yeah. Mhm. So these secret keys, you can find it over here first. Yeah,
Correct. Yeah.
you can find it over here. So the
Mhm.
API that gets hit is edge.sitecoreplatform.io. Not
Yeah.
sure of the exact URL. I'll let okay, let it build. I'll show you the exact URL that gets hit. And that URL configuration that itself is done in the Sitecore Content SDK package that we are installing.
Mhm.
So all these packages that are there, right? Sitecore, 1 minute.
Correct.
The Sitecore Content SDK package that we are referring to.
Yeah. What are the prerequisites are required so
Yeah.
that we'll get it. Yeah.
So now, right, so you can see the props, right? You can see the
Mhm.
API URL, the edge ID, the context ID that we are passing, and this is the API URL. So this
Okay.
API URL, when you pass the client ID and the context ID, it gets the detail, and based on the routing parameters, it identifies which item from Sitecore it needs to fetch.
Okay. But then,
Yeah,
I mean, it doesn't show something like that. Let's assume that your page is kind of a home page, right?
yeah,
And if the home page is having approximately, you can say 5 components are there, right?
okay,
And those 5 components will be having the data, right?
yeah.
So we will not get that in a one shot like that in a JSON file or something,
No,
right?
no, that also we will get it in the JSON file. So for that, uh, 1 minute. So for that, in the layout data, we are passing all the details over here. So
Okay.
instead, so there I did console.log on the one specific particular component, right? So here, when
Mhm.
you are passing the data over here, layout data, here if you log all these data, you will get all the data at one shot for all the 5 components.
Okay, got it. But
Yeah.
then from Sitecore ID, like our XM Cloud ID, we are not, it's not possible for us to get the complete JSON of that page, right?
So that is also possible. You can use GraphQL queries.
Okay.
So that also I wanted to show.
Yeah, that's what I just wanted to see from Sitecore.
Yeah,
I mean, from
yeah,
XM Cloud.
1 minute. Dev developer settings. Yeah, right. You can launch your
ID, correct.
ID. So here you can use this GraphQL query. Oh, I have already written one query. So you can see here, right? I'm
Okay,
getting all.
that's what I mean. I was, yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I mean. I was, because what happens now actually, when it comes to, because if the front end is very complicated or something, right? And if the
Mm,
data structure is very complicated, so sometime, I mean, we need to have that different team who will really create all these component at the front end layer in the .NET, sorry, in the Node.js or something. So that time they will refer this JSON file, and based on that, they will create that structure. Yeah. But
got it.
then, yeah, but then you have already shown that one, how to scaffold that one and all. So that will be also good. Yeah, that's fine. That's what I just wanted to understand.
Oh,
Yeah. Because I
oh,
mean, other platforms, they can direct, I mean, they are giving directly this JSON one.
yeah,
And
yeah,
even though JSON, they are showing it in a very beautiful and very easier way, right?
yeah,
So I was just trying to understand that.
yeah.
That's what I mean. I just wanted to
Okay.
understand.
Fine,
Thanks. Yeah.
Praveen. Any other questions?
I don't think so because there is no.
Uh,
Yeah, go ahead.
one question. One quick question. So, is there any reason today Content SDK is not supporting Experience Editor? Any rationale behind that?
Not sure of the exact reason, but I think Sitecore wants to move ahead with the new technology that it is coming up with, Page Builder. So Page Builder is far more powerful than the experience editor that we have, and they want to have one unified platform on the cloud. So looks like the idea behind is that Sitecore wants to go ahead with Page Builder and not keep two editing options available for content authors. So maybe that's the reason.
Okay, okay. Now the latest JSS SDK version seems to be pre-configured with the Sitecore, the client SDK, right? XM Cloud client SDK, right? Where we have a personalization search middleware just comes pre-configured with JSS SDK. Is that something available with Content SDK as well?
Yeah, that's available with Content SDK as well. So if you go to the, I mean, 1 minute, let me pull up my screen. If you look at the middlewares, right, there is also a out of the box middleware component. I mean, out of the box middleware, personalized middleware that is available. So it connects with the personalization settings that you have. So by default, out of the box, you can use it. In case you want to do any custom personalizations, you are always allowed to do that. And some data like site analytics, like footfall count, repeat users, you'll be getting all of that out of the box.
Okay, okay. Uh, I mean, is this supported on any specific Node.js version, or kind of it's the same as a JSS SDK would work?
Uh, just a minute. I will have to get back to you for this. Currently, I am using 22.2, so I am not exactly sure of what Node.js version it would not support. So let me check back and get back to you
Yeah,
for
sure, no problem, no problem. So the Cloud SDK, I mean, could you please open the repo, the code base of the demo app? I was just particularly looking at a package.json in the starter kit as well. I could not find the package.json.
no package.json is there.
Yep, package.json. So if I just go to the dependencies kind of packages,
Yeah,
yeah, Cloud SDK is there. Okay,
Cloud
perfect.
SDK.
Yeah. Okay. Uh, I mean, Sitecore is going to drop a JSS SDK down the line, kind of
Uh,
confused with the introduction of the content SDK and right JSS SDK running side by side.
they
I
are
mean, if
heavily
I have to go and
promoting
set up a
content.
new XM Cloud project, so which version should I use? Is kind of a JSS SDK or content SDK?
What Sitecore is now recommending is to use Content SDK. That's the future, is what they are telling. So they're heavily promoting Content SDK now.
Yeah.
So the content SDK is coming up with a lot more features and functionality in terms of the business user perspective, right? You would be the business user will be able to update the content or information very easily by using the content SDK. So that's what I mean. They are coming up with the content SDK. Yeah.
But the fundamental problem that I foresee with this content SDK is like, let's say if users are kind of, if you are migrating from a Sitecore XMXP to XM Cloud, on XMXP, right, the content editors are used to experience editor, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of
Yeah.
a major shift for them, right? Once we move them to XM Cloud, right, page editor is completely new editor. It's a new experience.
So what we have been telling to the candidates until now, you still have a experience editor on XM Cloud. You can just go and use it, right? It's not going to introduce a new experience altogether. But I'm limited with the content
No,
editor. If I just go and use
experience editor will still remain there, but then on top of that, you will be also having the content SDK. So it will give kind of a new user experience, or you can say business user perspective. It will be kind of a little bit very much easy to update those content.
No, Praveen. So once you like the headless application that you have, right? So once you build and deploy your code into your XM Cloud environments, the code that you write, that is not experience editor friendly. It supports
Okay.
only the page builder.
Okay. So yeah.
Yeah. That's the limitation
It's
that's there in content. I mean, I'm not sure if it's a limitation because they have purposely done it. So yeah.
okay.
Okay. Okay, that's all I have. So I mean, kind of one quick question. Sorry. So is this kind of stable? It's kind of can we go ahead and use content SDK for production builds, or is kind of still at a experimental
This
stage?
this was the initial build that is there. So we are also doing POCs. The production build we also have not gone ahead and deployed it till now for any of our client projects.
So what's your recommendation, right? If I have to just go and use this for client, is it recommended, or we still will still have to rely on a JSS SDK for now until this becomes more stable?
So that depends actually. So for us, the clients are already on XM Cloud and JSS. So for them, migrating them again to Content SDK would create another head application and deploy it. If somebody is starting their application, let's say if you're building it from scratch, then this might be considered. Otherwise, I think the JSS applications are still good to go. I mean,
Yeah.
there would be numerous factors that would come into architecture. So if it's a new development from scratch, I think Content SDK would still be preferable. But we already have tons of websites running on XM Cloud and JSS for our clients. So for them, taking this huge shift would also include huge cost and huge resources. So which ideally, as of now, we are not planning to go ahead with.
Okay, noted. Yeah, that's all I have at the moment. So there will not be any changes the way we synchronize, kind of sync the Sitecore definition items today, right? The Sitecore content serialization will still be there. No
Yeah, the
problem.
content serialization would still be there.
Okay.
So we
Okay.
have not tried setting it up, but as far as reading the documentations that we've gone through so far, the serialization would still be there.
Okay. Okay. Nice. Nice. Thanks, Rayash. Yeah, that's all I have.
Okay. Is there any other question from anyone? I think we are good. Thank you, Nikita. Thank you, Shreyansh. This was insightful. And thank you all for joining. If you have any questions later on, you can contact us on LinkedIn. We will be happy to help. Thank you. Thank you for
Thank
joining.
you.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Thank you.
Thank you, Pushpi. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you everyone for joining.